By now, it is no secret that trading card games have always held a special place in my heart. In this series, Raikourider and myself will be opening 24 packs or one box of a core Yu-Gi-Oh set. We will continue to open a set in chronological order week after week. We will use these cards to construct a deck and then face off against each other in a best 2 out of 3 match. Each match will have 3 prizes up for grabs, with 2 prizes going to the winner and 1 going to the loser. These prizes can range from individual wildcards, to starter or structure decks, to sealed booster packs, or even event cards that were only handed out at select tournaments. However, we cannot rest on our laurels. Between the ever-evolving nature of the Forbidden and Limited list, the cards that we ourselves choose to remove from the game, and the way that the game itself changes throughout the years, all of our matches will increase in complexity and also remain fresh. This is yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression. Alright, so last week went pretty well for us, and thankfully we actually picked up quite a few good cards out of that. So hopefully we can actually since we managed to break the losing streak, hopefully we can actually continue our little winning streak and catch up a bit here. So our next set here is Crossroads of Chaos. This came out in November of 2008, and this set is notable for quite a few things. First off, it introduced a new archetype. Those of you who remember the anime may remember Leo and his Morphtronics. These are monsters that have special effects that activate depending on which position they are in, and their gimmick is that they are based on household items. Honestly, these cards are actually not nearly as bad as you would think they are. In fact, if you could build a reliable deck around them, they actually could be pretty strong. The only downside is they don't have a whole lot of basic protection, so that's what makes it a little bit harder to actually make use of them, but they're still pretty good. And the other thing this set is notable for is that it introduced a lot of plant cards. There is also another archetype here, but it's a very small archetype, and realistically, it's not very good, but we'll discuss a couple of cards for it later. But like the plant monsters in general, like looking at Copy Plant here is one of our big ones. This is a tuner monster that lets you target another plant you control that has a level, and copy that monster's level. It's actually a fairly nice card because it helps you get into some Synchro 8s pretty easily if you're running plants, and as long as you have another level 4 plant on the field. And honestly, just the fact that plants in general get a fair amount of support right now means that it's going to be kind of helpful for later down the road. Plant Synchro is a popular deck of the 5Ds era after all. So let's scroll a little bit through some of the notable common cards here. So we already talked about Copy Plant. We just showed off Selphon. This one actually lets you search, flip cards off the top of your deck and try to summon more Morphtronics if your monster's in attack mode. So it actually kind of helps to turbo things out a little bit, but it's not as reliable, but it can be kind of nice. Morphtronic Magnon's actually a pretty nice one. It lets you, if it's in defense, it basically creates a lock if you have 2 of them on the field, which is pretty nice, especially because we don't have nearly as much effect removal, I guess you could say. So this can actually help shut things down a little bit for a little bit, which is kind of nice. And then scrolling a little bit more, we have a lot of the Morphtronics are here. Realistically, though, a lot of them aren't very great. And then we have our Iron Chain monsters, which this is the other archetype I was referring to. Basically, their gimmick is that they can make you mill cards off your opponent's deck if you either don't attack or do certain effects instead. But overall, it's not a very good effect. And in fact, given the fact that we're at the point where there are a lot of cards that have effects that work in the graveyard, actively milling your opponent out might not be a good idea in general. So that's something to pay attention to. And then scrolling through more, we have more support for spell card support for plants, for machines, the Morphtronics. And then into the trap cards, we actually have some notable cards that are pretty good. Synchro Strike is a pretty nice one. It lets you pick a synchro monster on the field, and it gains 500 attack for every material that was used to summon it until the end of the turn, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but given the fact that you're going to have at least 2 material for each synchro monster anyway, basically it gives your monster a free 1,000 points minimum, so that's kind of nice. And Goes in Match is actually one of the other cards we're really going to have to pay attention to. This is a Floodgate. Each player can only control one attribute of monster, and when it's activated, you send all other face-up monsters to the graveyard that do not have that chosen attribute. Now, what this means is, if you get rid of your monsters, you can have a different attribute summoned out. The problem is, if you have 2 monsters on the field, you can only choose to keep one of them. And basically, this is basically the attribute version of Rivalry of Warlords, which we haven't really seen a whole lot of yet, but trust me, these are going to be important way later. So scrolling up here, we're going to go ahead and talk about we should talk about the short prints real quick. These are more commons that were just shorter, like short printed, not very common to find. Whitestone of Legend is probably the only notable one of the 4, simply because it lets you add a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to your hand if this card goes to the graveyard. Which is alright, but it's not necessarily that big of a card. Now we scroll into the rares though, and here we actually have some key cards we want to see. First off, we have Turbo Synchron here. We picked up a Turbo Warrior from the tins, so we definitely want to see at least one of this guy. When this card attacks, you could switch the monster to the target to defense mode. Really, it's not that great of an effect, but it has the effect that if you take battle damage while it's attacking, you can summon a monster from your hand with power equal to or less than what you took. Basically, the gimmick of this is supposed to be to get a monster out more or less to help with the synchro summoning, but the fact of the matter is this is going to be something we're more going to summon after we already have an established board in order to get our level 6 out. And even then, if we don't want to run Turbo Warrior, then this card is kind of pointless for us. Mad Archfiend, though, is a pretty interesting card in general. It actually has 1800 attack, and it has the piercing effect, and if it's attacked, then you get to switch it to defense mode, which in general seems kind of like a bad effect because you're forcing it into defense to where it's not going to get, where it's going to be a lot easier to get over. But at the same time, if your opponent would normally attack over it anyway, then putting it in defense lets you at least keep your life points safe, unless they have piercing as well. We have a few more of the Mortronics to pay attention to. These are going to be the other ones that'll be big for later. And then we have Iron Chain Dragon, which is actually the boss monster of the Iron Chain archetype. It's very generic, level 6, which is nice. You can banish all Iron Chain monsters in your graveyard to let this monster gain 200 attack for each card banished. That card effect we're never going to use. However, its other effect is kind of neat. If it deals battle damage to your opponent, you mill 3 cards. Now, I did mention before that milling cards may not be a great strategy, but at the same time, it's just the idea that getting a couple of cards out is nice, whereas the idea of milling your opponent out entirely tends to give them a lot more options. So this is kind of something to where it's like, it's going to be a side benefit rather than the actual goal. Excuse me. Scrolling through the rest of the traps, we don't really see anything too amazing. Psychic Life Transfer is kind of neat if you're running Psychics, and it's a level 7 with 2400 attack, so I mean, it's not too bad. It'd be something that if we don't have, given the fact that we don't have any level 7 synchros at the moment anyway, that might honestly not be the worst thing in the world if we pull it. And then let's go up into the, or down I guess, into the super rares. And for the most part, I don't really think any of these are too amazing, personally. Urgent Tuning is actually kind of a neat one, though. During the battle phase, you can immediately synchro summon a monster using the monsters you have on the field, which is kind of nice because basically this lets you, it lets you kind of stop an attack during the opponent's turn, or alternatively, if you let your monsters get in for damage during your turn, you could flip this card, get an instant synchro summon off, and then you get to attack with that synchro monster. So that's actually kind of nice too. And then scrolling back up, we're going to hit the ultra rares, and we see quite a few good ones here. So we see Black Rose Dragon is obviously the face of this set. When it's Synchro summoned, you can destroy all cards on the field, and then once per turn you could banish a plant from your graveyard to take a monster in defense mode your opponent controls, force it into attack mode, and drop its attack until zero. Drop its attack to 0 until the end of the turn. This is a huge card and a really good dragon, and honestly, the fact that Rai already has one because of the tins is a little concerning, mostly because he gets the board wipe at any point he can make a 7. However, we can find, if we can pull this, if we're able to pull this card, then that'll help out a lot, because it'll give us a board wipe as well, and on top of that, it also gives us an excuse not to ban it, which, don't get me wrong, Black Rose may be a problem for us, but I really don't want to ban it if we can avoid it. And then we see 3 cards here that are my enemy. We have Plague Spreader Zombie, Doomkaiser Dragon, and Revive King Hydas. Now, the reason I say these are my enemy is because when Ryan and I did an offline progression a while back, I ended up pulling absolutely no Plague Spreader Zombie. However, I did end up pulling 1 Doomkaiser Dragon, 1 Revive King Hades, and in a future set, they actually have another monster, the Skull Archfiend of Lightning, that require, all 3 of these Synchro monsters require Plague Spreader Zombie and a non-tuner zombie monster in order to summon. So because I did not have Plague Spreader, I could not summon either of these monsters. And in fact, every opportunity I had to get Plague Spreader, I ended up whiffing on. So I never got to play this. Meanwhile, Rai had, I believe, 2 of them. So, as much as I would like to see Plague Spreader, the fact is I'm going to assume this card is just going to be the unobtainium of cards, because, fun fact, I also open packs on this site as a stress reliever / boredom reliever a lot, and I have probably opened, give or take, about 1,000 packs of Crossroads of Chaos in the past, 2 years. I have not pulled a single Plague Spreader out of those packs at all. I don't know if the algorithm just likes to screw with me, or if my luck is just that awful, but yeah, I have literally never pulled a Plague Spreader on this before. So, if we pull it now, that'll be a hell of a change in pace. And then we, of course, see our secret rares down below, which, for the most part, they're not very interesting. Neos Wiseman is, notoriously bad. We do not want to see that. Divine Neos, also notoriously bad. The only one that's actually any real good is Tempest Magician, which is actually still banned. It requires a tuner and a non-tuner spellcaster, and when it's summoned, you place a spell counter on it, and you could add a spell counter to a monster you control for every card you discard once per turn, and then you can remove all the spell counters to deal 500 damage to your opponent. This is actually a pretty powerful card, depending on what happens, and in a spell counter deck, this actually can be pretty rough. In fact, I believe this led to FTKs, and that's why this card is banned. But aside from that, the secret rares are really nothing to write home about, so we're going to go ahead and just get started into the pack opening in just a second. Alright, so 24 packs of Crossroads of Chaos. Honestly, I'm mostly just hoping to see the comments that I want to see, because I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Ultras, or... yeah, specifically, I don't have a lot of faith in the Ultra Rares, so... let's flip up and see what we start with, and... right off the bat, a Gozen match is actually a pretty good start, because we're going to want to see the Floodgates. I don't know if we'll necessarily use them right now, but definitely going to be kind of helpful for later. Wall of Ivy's not too bad as a defense, but it's also not the best card. Overall, I guess this pack's kind of okay. I actually forgot the Whitestone Legend was a tuner monster, though, I'm not going to lie. Iron Chain Dragon, so there's another level 6. Admittedly, I don't know if we're going to make how much of this we're going to make use of, given the fact that we have access to Gaia Knight, which is 100 attack points higher. But honestly, still 2,500 is not the worst thing in the world. Anything else here that I see? Another Gozen match is kind of nice, but that's about it. Okay, there's our first holo, the Botanical Lion. What does this even do? This card gains 300 attack for each plant-type monster you control. Control of this face-up card cannot switch. Okay, that's actually not the worst effect in the world. It would definitely require us focusing heavily on plants, but still not too bad. Ooh, and Confusion Chaff. This is actually a card I forgot to talk about. This is actually an interesting one. You can only activate it when your opponent declares a second direct attack during the same battle phase. And what it does is it forces the new monster that's attacking to fight the first monster that hit directly, and it prevents other effects from activating during the battle. So basically, it means that unless the opponent managed to somehow get this effect negated, they're basically going to lose at least one of their monsters, which is kind of nice. And it's a nice little surprise, because if you're letting the first attack through, the opponent might not expect you to actually have something to stop the next one, unless it's going for game. Still though, that's actually kind of nice. If we could get another of these, that'd be kind of sweet. Mortronic Selphon's nice to see though, because we're definitely going to want to see that if we're going to play the Mortronic build later. And Monotron's kind of nice too, because it lets you switch a monster, your Mortronic, to defense mode when it's summoned, so that's not too bad. Ooh. So, okay, there's an ultimate rare Rose Warrior of Revenge, and this is actually an ultra rare itself, so that's interesting. When it deals battle damage to your opponent, you inflict 300 extra damage to your opponent. So basically, it kind of has Darkroom and Nightmare of sorts injected into it, which is whatever. But it's a warrior, it's level 4, and it's a tuner. So you know what? Not too bad. 1600 attack isn't the worst thing in the world either. And we also see the Psychic Life Transfer, which is pretty nice. So I glossed over this card a little bit, but it has an effect where once per turn you can actually banish a Psychic monster in your graveyard to gain 1200 life points, which won't necessarily matter too much unless we're actively playing a Psychic deck, but depending on how our deck is built, this could be used as a nice little life boost if we need it. And then rest of the pack is kind of whatever. Mortronic Cord's an interesting card for the Mortronic build, but that's about it. Poison Chain, I hate this card so much. This card has the effect that if you didn't attack, then during the end phase of your turn, you can make your opponent mill a card for every Iron Chain monster you control. The reason I hate this card is because in the anime, it had the effect of milling a card for every level of the monster Iron Chains you controlled. So this card is not only actively worse in that regard, but the fact that you have to skip your battle phase entirely. Like, it's not even a fact that you didn't attack with Iron Chain monsters, it's straight up that you had to not attack, period. Which just makes this awful. Okay, Morph Transition's actually not the worst card. This actually can blank an attack, and it changes the battle position of the Morptronic monster that was targeted for the attack. So this is actually kind of nice. The only issue is it is a bit slow, and unless you're running something like the Magnon specifically for this, it doesn't really help a whole lot if your opponent has multiple monsters on the field. But another Gozen match, that's nice. I think that's our second one. And another Whitestone Legend. I think we have one or two Blue Eyes, so maybe that might come in handy for later, but I'm not sure. Okay, there's another holo, Raimei. I think that's our third holo of the box and only 9 packs in. That's kind of surprising. When this card's destroyed in battle, sent to the grave, you could add a level 2 or lower light monster from your deck to your hand. It's not an awful card, per se, but there aren't a whole lot of level 2 and lower light monsters that we really rely on. So, it's kind of neat, but it's a bit of a waste in our regard. Clocken might be kind of neat if you could stall out, because you could turn it into a wave motion cannon of sorts, but not the best thing in the world. And the rest of the pack's actually kind of garbage. Oh, there's another super rare, a Black Garden. This is actually an interesting card. So, if a monster is normal or special summon face up, except through Black Garden's effect, you cut its attack in half, and then the monster that that has that monster summons a Rose token to their opponent's side of the field in attack mode. And even if this card leaves the field, that attack loss still stays in play, which is kind of nice. Then you could target a monster in your graveyard with an attack equal to the total attack of all plants on your field. Destroy this card and all the plants as possible, and then if you destroy them all, you can summon that monster. So basically, this lets you bring back a monster. This acts like a monster reborn by removing all of the tokens. So that's not too shabby, but it definitely requires a bit more setup in general. Another Confusion Shaft, though. I think that makes our playset, so that's nice to see. Another Black Garden. Wow, okay. Well, shit. Maybe the plant idea is not too far-fetched after all. Another Morptronic Selphon and another Magnon, so that's kind of nice to see. Factory of 100 Machines, I guess we could discuss now that we actually have a couple more Morptronics. This lets you banish all Morptronics in your graveyard to target a machine monster you control, and it gains 200 points for each one banished. It's not the best of benefits, and compared to something like Limiter Removal, it's definitely weak. But it's not too shabby if you need a quick attack boost and you only need like a couple hundred points. So, not the worst thing in the world. Still though, second Black Garden, that's kind of nice. Oh, that's funny. So we had a Psychic Life Transfer, that's the second one, and another Turbo Warrior Ultra Rare. That's hilarious. Because I don't even think we have a Turbo Synchron just yet, so... second Copy Plant, another Morph Transition. That's kind of neat. Honestly, Turbo Warrior's not that bad of a card. So, I mean, if we could get a Turbo Synchron, that is an option for us. Are you fucking serious? Doomkaiser Dragon. Again, we're hitting all of the Ultra Rares except for Plague Spreader. That thing is going to haunt me. So, yeah, this card requires Plague Spreader Zombie and a non-tuner Zombie in order to summon. And when it is summoned, you could target a zombie monster in your opponent's graveyard to special summon it, but it destroys itself whenever this card leaves the field, which is kind of whatever. But there is actually an interesting aspect to this. There is a deck we're going to have access to if we win this next duel, and if we do, and assuming we're able to summon this card out, there's actually a bit of synergy that could work with that. That being said, that still requires us actually pulling the damn Plague Spreader, which, like I said, I've pulled probably like 1,000 packs of this overall, and it has never appeared for me, so we'll see about that. Another Synchro Strike, though, that's nice to see. An Ultimate Rare Mark of the Rose, which, if I remember correctly, is another Ultra Rare? Yeah, it's another Ultra Rare. Wow. Okay, so this card requires you to banish a plant monster to activate, but it basically is Snatch Steal during your turn. And then during your end phase, it gets negated until your next standby phase. Which is not the best of effects, but it is kind of neat nonetheless. And, I mean, granted, Snatch Steal's banned, so, I mean, if you're running plants, this is actually not a bad card. Another Gozen match. I'm pretty sure this is our playset now. And then we have Clock In again. We have a Datatron. I don't remember how many of that we've pulled. But overall, we're not too shabby in terms of pulls. It's just a matter of hitting the right pulls. Okay, so we have another super rare, a Red Ogre. I don't actually know what this card is. When this card's normal summon, you can send any number of cards from your hand to the graveyard, then target the same number of cards on the field and bounce them to the hand. Okay, that's actually not too bad. The only downside is it requires it to be normal summoned, which means you actually have to sacrifice 1 to 2 monsters, depending on what you're sacrificing in order to summon this out, which kind of sucks, but, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. And that's definitely our third Magnon, our third Selphon. So, I mean, it's not like this pack is a complete waste, so. Okay, so we have 3 packs left at Crossroads of Chaos, and honestly, the pulls have been kind of neat, and haven't been that awful. However, I have noticed we are still missing a Turbo Synchron. We still miss Plague Spreader, of course. And honestly, I think that's about it in terms of what we're really missing out on. So hopefully we get see one of those. Holy shit! Oh, fuck, we actually hit Plague Spreader. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't notice it at first. I just saw ultra rare. I was like, oh crap. Wow. Wow, we finally got this. Shit. Now I actually might have to really... I mean, damn, now if I win, I might actually have to think about if I wanted that zombie deck. But, wow. Another Gozen match, another Confuser Chaff, but, wow. Okay, next pack. Fortunately, no Turbo Synchron. That's a bit iffy. Honestly, the rest of this pack's kind of meh as well anyway. Okay, so, honestly, I just want to see the Turbo Synchron. Can we see that at least? And we cannot, unfortunately. But we hit another super rare, Goka the Pyre of Malice. Wow, we've hit a lot of hollows in this box. I'm kind of surprised. So with Goka, if you control a fire, you can special summon this card. When you do, target a fire monster you control, destroy that target. Special summon a fireball token during each of your standby phases. You contribute another fire monster. This card gains 500 attack. Not the worst card, but not anything we're really going to focus on. But wow. I'm quite shocked, actually. I'm not going to lie. Like, admittedly, I'm a little disappointed we didn't hit an urgent tuning, but that's kind of whatever. But damn. Okay, so let's go through a quick rundown here, actually. How many of these did we hit exactly? So we see one. We see Botanical Lion, Rose Warrior of Revenge. We see Black Garden. We see another Black Garden, Turbo Warrior, Doomkaiser Dragon, we see Mark of the Rose, Red Ogre, Plague Spreader, and Goka. We hit like 10 hollows out of this box. Damn. I'm actually kind of shocked by that. Okay. So we're going to have to go into deck building now and see what we could come up with, because this is definitely not what I was expecting. So, okay, yeah, we're going to get into that, so stay tuned. Okay, so here's the deck list we're bringing to today's duel. I decided that we don't really have a whole lot to work with in terms of a plant deck, so unfortunately, Double Black Garden, as cool as it is not really going to work out for us at the moment. So, we're going to go ahead and go back to what we've been doing and doing well, Dark Worlds. So let's go through the card by card here. First, we have our one Armageddon Knight. This is going to work out well for us because not only does it give us a good, decent level 4 monster, but the fact that we could pitch a dark monster kind of helps out in our cause as well. Then we have 2 copies of Beige, Vanguard of Dark World. If we discard it for a card effect, we special summon it, simple enough. 1 copy of Brawn, Mad King of Dark World. I feel like at some point we're probably going to replace this guy with something else, but he can let us discard a card, so you know what, it's not too bad. Then we have our 1 copy of Crystal Seer. This has been a good card for us so far, and hopefully it'll keep being good for us. 2 copies of Dark Resonator to help protect us once in a blue moon, as well as have a nice tuner. 1 Exile Force, 2 gold. We have 1 Grin, 1 Khaki, 1 copy of Krebons. I'm really sad that we only have 1 copy of this. Hopefully we have a chance to get more of these in wild cards or something. 1 copy of Mad Archfiend. Unfortunately, we only have 1 of this as well, which kind of sucks. But this is actually a pretty good card, and honestly, it might work well for us here. 1 copy of Plague Spreader Zombie. I cannot believe I actually get to say that. Our Rainbow Dark Dragon, because we have a lot of dark monsters here. And we actually have a little bit more in that regard, which I'll explain in a moment. We have 1 copy of Sangin, 2 copies of Silva, and our Witch of the Black Forest. For our spells, we have 2 Book of Moon. This is going to go back to 1 pretty soon, but for now we're going to have our 2 and enjoy it. 2 copies of Dark World Dealings, 2 copies of Dark World Lightning, mostly to help deal with face-down monsters, 1 copy of Emergency Teleport. This is primarily here just to get Krebons onto the field when we need him. When we need them really quickly. And honestly, just to see Rai's reaction. 1 copy of Giant Trunade, 1 Heavy Storm, 2 copies of Instant Fusion. So this card has not been limited by by this point just yet, and this is actually an interesting card for us. We pay 1,000 life points to summon a level 5 or lower fusion monster from the extra deck, but it can't attack and it's destroyed during the end of the turn. But it is treated as a fusion summon, which is good, because if we could bring it back using other methods later. And on top of that, by bringing these out, we could summon out Dark Balter, Dark Fire Dragon, Flame Ghost, or Thousand Eyes Restrict, and that helps us out in terms of getting levels out. And not only that, also notice, each of these monsters are dark, which means that they actually act as further fuel for Rainbow Dark Dragon. 2 copies of Mystic Plasma Zone in case we need that extra power, 1 MST, 1 Pot of Greed, and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. Once again, we're actually getting a chance to use this finally after pulling this in the Gold Series, and this is basically going to be used primarily for either getting Armageddon Knight to dump another monster, or getting Exile Force in order to pop a monster. One or the other. So, either way, this card basically is going to read, a monster goes to the graveyard. And then for our traps, we have Call of the Haunted to bring back something if we need it, 1 copy of Magic Cylinder for extra defense, 2 copies of Sakuretsu Armor. For the side deck, we still have a bit of our Chaos build, but a couple of changes. We have our BLS, Chaos Zork, back down to 1 Cyber Dragon, which sucks. Our DD Warrior Lady, 1 copy of Junk Synchron, and I wish we had more than 1 copy of this right now, but this is still good. This card would let us bring back something like Gren or Kaki, and we could actually go into Junk Warrior, which, if we have another level 2 monster, like say Krebons, that would give Junk Warrior a pretty good power boost. But it also acts as a level 3 generic tuner, which is really good also. 2 copies of Magical Merchant, 1 copy of Magician of Faith, 1 copy of Dark Hole, 1 Swords of Revealing Light, 1 Synchro Blast Wave. This is actually a fun card. Since if we have a Synchro monster on the field, we could target a monster Rai controls and pop it. Unfortunately, this I think is the only copy we're ever going to get access to, as far as I'm aware, but it's still a good card nonetheless if we have a Synchro focus, which we kind of do. And then we have our 3 negate attack and our Ring of Destruction in case we need defense. For our extra deck, we still have a few notable cards here. We have Dark Balter, Dark Fire Dragon, Flame Ghost, Thousand Eyes. All of these are here specifically for instant fusion. And for our Synchros, we have Colossal Fighter, which is really good if we're going to run a warrior deck. But in this case, it's just a case of if he gets destroyed in battle, he brings himself back. That's all that matters. 1 copy of Doom Kaiser Dragon. Surprisingly, we actually technically can summon this if... Well, I say technically. We're really not going to be able to summon this because we don't have another zombie. But, who knows? Maybe if we find a way to steal one off of Rai in some way. Or Rai gives us one somehow. Who knows? Honestly, if nothing else, this is just to show him that we pulled this bullshit yet again. 1 copy of Gaia Knight Force of Earth. Good generic level 6. Iron Chain Dragon, again, another good generic level 6. We have Junk Warrior, which probably won't make too much of a splash here, but you never know. 1 Psychic Life Trancer, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Stardust Dragon, thank you Collector's Tins, 1 Thought Ruler Archfiend, and 2 Turbo Warrior. Fun fact, we did not pull a Turbo Synchron, so we actually cannot show this. We cannot summon this monster, however, I want to be able to show this to Rai that we actually pulled another one. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we can do. It's time to rev it up. So, it looks like we found ourselves at a bit of a crossroad, wouldn't you say?
I guess it really depends on what you open, because I wasn't too thrilled with this set as a whole. Even though, like, the set is a banger for Constructed, at lower rarities, this didn't have a lot of really impactful cards, but that's going to change with the next couple sets.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Like, unless you're going to go full-on plant deck, there isn't really a whole lot that the commons provided. There's, like, a couple, but not too much.
I would have done that, but you had to ban Gigaplant.
Sorry, not sorry.
I don't blame you for banning Gigaplant.
Alright. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you do win the roll.
Alright, I'll take the play.
Alright, good luck, duelist.
Good luck. Ooh, okay, there's a start. Standby, main. Let's go ahead and start with Pot of Greed.
That's a good start.
Okay. That didn't really help a lot. I think I'm going to set a monster, set a card, and pass the turn.
Draw for turn, standby, main. I will go ahead and run out Steamroid.
Steamroid? Oh, this is interesting.
Proceed to the battle phase.
Okay.
23 into your set.
It is my Crystal Seer. So,
Yeah, card's good.
let's see what we hit. Okay.
Back on the Dark Worlds, I see.
I think I'm going to add... I think I'm going to add Silva to my hand. And put Beige to the bottom.
Then after combat, I'm going to set one and pass.
Alright. Draw. Standby, main. Ooh, that's actually not a bad card. Okay. Let's start with running out Dark World Lightning and target your face down.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. You got Supercharge.
Ooh. Okay. And I will discard my Silva, which in turn will summon it.
It will, yes.
Then... let's see. What else do I want to do? Why not? Let's go a little madhouse here. I'm gonna run out a Mad Archfiend.
Mad Archfiend.
Unfortunately, I cannot do a Jack Atlas impression to save my goddamn life, so instead, we're just gonna have Mad Archfiend go into Steamroid, who will lose 500 points to his own effect.
I'll take 28.
And then, main 2, I will set one more card, and I will pass the turn.
Man, that Dark World Lightning was so good. Draw for turn. Stand by. Main. I am going to normal Steamroid.
Okay.
I'm going to E-Telly.
Ooh, you got an E-Telly.
This was in the last pack, like literal gauge luck.
Yeah, that's good.
Get a commander.
Ooh.
I'm gonna. Then if this is okay, I'm gonna sink.
Yeah, that's fine. Going into
Kaboom.
Black Rose. You're just gonna nuke the board, okay?
Kaboom.
Yeah, you got a good one. You got some good ones.
I mean, I gotta get those back row out of there. That's a Ghost Rare, by the way.
Oh, that's... oh, so you pulled another one?
Yup.
Oh, fuck. Oh, great, so I got 2 to deal with.
It doesn't actually matter that much because Black Rose gets limited.
I mean, it gets limited, but it doesn't stay limited for very long, and Black Rose is a damn good card. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a thing. I'm gonna set...
Kaboom.
Yeah, I'm just gonna set a card and pass.
Draw for turn, stand by, main. I need monsters.
Oh, shit, okay. Yeah, that's good.
I think I'm just gonna get 5 monsters, not gonna lie. I'll get this one. I'll get this one. I'll get this one, and this one.
2 Drillroids, a Steamroid, Sangan, and Witch. God, I can't believe you turned into Cyrus.
I mean, the cards are there.
I guess I'm gonna have to... God, do I really want to give that to you, though? Fuck. I think I'm gonna have to give you Witch of the Black Forest, honestly.
I'll take it.
I don't like it, but it's the weakest, or it's one of the weakest in terms of threats to me right now.
I'll run it out there.
Alright.
Battle 11.
Yep, I'll take that.
Go.
Alright, draw. Stand by, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Why did I pick
Somebody's
that
not
one?
drawing monsters.
Damn it. Damn it. That's not... I'll set one and pass.
Draw for turn. Stand by. Mate, you're not gonna like this at all.
Oh, God.
Zabi.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's...
Zabi. Zabi. Chainlink 1, Zabi. Chainlink 2, Witch, because I want to chain block you, clearly.
Oh, man.
So then I have to get my Witch search. And then you'll get your Sangan search on a new chain.
Right.
What do I want with Witch of Black Forest? Witch of Black Forest actually isn't that good in this deck. I'm just gonna grab a tuner.
Glad to see you pick the less offensive Psychic Commander.
Okay, and then new chain, you have Sangan.
Let's see. Who do I want to pick is the question. I think I'm going to add Dark Resonator to my hand.
I mean, great minds think alike, both get tuners.
Yeah.
Anyway, 24 direct.
Yep, 24 to the dome.
Go.
Alright, draw. Standby, main. Here we go. So this is going to be a new bit of tech. I'm going to summon out Dark Resonator. I'm going to activate Instant Fusion.
Yep. I knew Instant Fusion would start seeing play as soon as we got tuners.
So...
this is a Stardust Dragon, I imagine.
Let's go ahead and bring out Dark Bolter.
Dark Bolter. This is going to make a probably Stardust Dragon.
Yep. You know, the funny thing is, I wanted to make this all grandiose thing about how this is the first Synchro summon in the series, but...
I beat you to it.
You not only beat me to it, but you did it with absolutely no fanfare, so that's no fun. Alright.
I mean, what more is there to say besides just boom?
True. Alright.
I'll take honored.
Main phase 2. I think I'm going to set a card and pass the turn.
Draw for turn, standby, main. Thankfully, I think I can actually out Stardust. Sidra?
Oh, okay.
Psychic Commander?
Yeah, that's good. Oh, you're gonna RDA.
Make an 8. Yeah, it's gonna be RDA.
Oh, that's a problem for me.
Battle. This looks familiar. Hit over the Stardust.
Yeah, that's... Oh boy. That's not good.
Gee, those two meeting up isn't familiar at all. I'll set one and pass.
Alright, draw. Standby, main. I guess it worked out for me last time. Let's Dark World Lightning your face down.
It's a Mirror Force.
And I will discard Beige, which summons it. I do not like that, but... Go!
Draw for turn, standby, main. I need to think now. I think they're all in my graveyard. That was a bad mistake. Wow. I mean, it's another guy. Proto-Cyber.
Okay.
Battle. Hit over the beige.
Alright.
Then 11.
Okay.
After combat, I'll set one. Go.
Alright. Draw.
You've used 2 Dark World Lightnings. You can't possibly have the third.
That actually may be the exact card to save my ass here. I think it actually might. Okay, I'm going to activate Giant Trunade to shove your card back to your hand.
Sure.
I'm going to run out Armageddon Knight and activate its effect.
Oh, did you get a Plague Spreader zombie?
I'm going to discard... what do I exactly have here?
Well, that's a sign you don't get. You didn't have Plague Spreader zombie because if you had a Plague Spreader zombie, you would just snap send it.
I'm going to send a khaki to the graveyard.
Yep.
And then I'm going to banish khaki, beige, bolter, resonator, Sandkin,
What is this?
Archfiend, and Silva for Rainbow Dark Dragon, motherfucker!
What? That's a pull.
I showed that to you a while back in Phantom Darkness. I just never got a chance to summon the damn thing.
Wow.
So, yeah, let's go ahead and hit over RDA. And
That's absolutely just miserable.
holy,
That's
like I'm gonna
huge
be
bomb.
I'm gonna tell you this right now though. If I didn't pull Armageddon off the top, I was fucked. Plain and simple, because I was gonna be one short.
Yup. How do I out this?
Standby main.
It's so big.
Okay.
Just Rainbow Dark Dragon.
I guess we're gonna... Well, we might as well have some fun and make it bigger. Let's go Mystic Plasma Zone.
Yup.
Armageddon into your defense.
I'm gonna just scoop him up.
Woo! Damn, I did not expect that.
Okay, well now that I know... Red Dragon Archfiend, not good enough apparently.
Just barely, though.
Alright, draw for turn, standby, main. I am going to run out Drillroid and then set 2.
Okay.
Go.
Draw. Standby, main. I'm going to... I'm trying to remember how exactly this card works. Okay. I'm going to set a monster, and I will pass.
Draw for turn, standby, main. I'm just going to proceed straight to the battle phase.
Okay.
Attack.
You got my witch.
Yep, that will get the witch.
And I will add... Well, funny enough, it actually allows me to add my Mage Archfiend to hand because it has no defense.
Alright, after combat, I'm going to set an additional card, and I will pass the turn.
Alright. Draw. Standby, main. That's an interesting card. Okay. I need to actually check a ruling real quick. Okay, so that does exactly what I thought it does. Alright, I'm gonna set a monster and I'm gonna pass.
Draw for turn. Stand by main. Let's go ahead and run out a Steamroid.
Choo choo.
Battle phase. Hit.
Alright, you attacked my magical merchant.
Yeah, it will still flip.
Which means I get to merch. And that's a good merch.
Sack is pretty good. And then 18 to the dome.
Yep.
Go.
Alright, draw. Standby, main. Ooh, that's actually not a bad card. Let's shine some swords out. And here's
Dark Bribe.
Dark Bribe. Ew, okay. So that goes, and I get to draw.
Yeah, you do get a draw, but I can't let you draw 3 off swords.
Fair. I guess we can afford to pay this then? I'm gonna activate Dark World Lightning, target this card.
Sure.
Judgment. Alright. And
I'm sure you're happy to see that gone.
Oh, yeah. And so, Rai, fun fact. On and off, for fun, I've pulled... I want to say I've opened like 500 or so packs of Crossroads of Chaos on the site. Just for fun. I finally pulled a fucking Plague Spreader.
I was wondering if you...
Like,
you must have had it in your hand last game, then.
Like,
Otherwise you would have snap sent that off Armageddon Night.
Honestly, the only reason I didn't was because... Well, I could send it... The reason I didn't was because of the fact that I didn't know if I was going to need it for later, and Rainbow Dark Dragon needed needed to banish the card anyway.
Yup. But yes, you have a Plague Spreader now.
About damn time. Alright, so... I'm going to summon out my Armageddon Knight and
Sure.
and activate his effect. Let's see, who do we want to pitch?
In during another Plague Spreader, because
Boy,
might as well.
That would be funny, honestly. I think I'm going to pitch my gold.
Sure.
Then...
More like what to put on top of your deck.
Pretty much. I think I'm going to put this card to the top of my deck to special summon Spreader.
Yeah, you have a Plague Spreader, and then your Synchro 6. Show me the Gaia Knight.
I think I'm actually going to go with the Iron Chain Dragon.
Oh, Iron Chain, okay. Sure.
Which actually gets to activate a new card of mine. I activate Synchro Blast Wave. And I'm gonna...
yeah, that's pretty good.
And I think I'll target your Drillroid.
Sure.
This card was one of, like, 3 cards in the 5D starter deck that I just absolutely loved growing up. And it was so fun, like, being able to play that, just because it was honestly fun just having a free blow up the card. Especially when basic removal was still kind of expensive in paper.
Yeah, I guess Smashing Grounds were still not cheap at this time.
Yeah. Alright. Now let's go ahead and hit into your Steamroid.
On attack declaration, supercharge.
Okay.
So I get to draw a couple.
You draw a couple, you take 1,200 damage,
12.
and then you mill 3.
Then I do mill 3. Ooh, those were nasty.
Yeah. I forgot you got Gold Sark. Oof. Alright, main phase 2. I will set a card, and I will pass.
Draw for turn.
And that's gone.
Right, this is gone, yeah. Stand by main. How do I go about this? Iron Chain Dragon is actually kind of a problem. Yeah, this is a problem. I'm going to go ahead and just set a monster and pass.
Okay. Draw. Standby main. Well, let's see what you've got hidden. I'm going to summon out a Mad Archfiend.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Mad Archfiend's going to go in.
It's Sandgen. I'll take 8 Sandgen effect.
Actually, you take 12.
Oh, yeah, you're right. What do I... I'll fix the life total after I'm done searching.
That's fine.
I just gotta figure out what I want. Do I just get a tuner? Yeah, I think I just get tuner.
Alright.
And then I'll take 29. Yeah.
So Witch, another commander gone, and Fiacroy Connection Zone. Ooh.
Yeah, you didn't see this part of the deck yet.
Oh, I'm glad that's not there right now.
Yeah, you didn't see that part of the deck before.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a scary thing, actually.
Draw for turn, stand by main. That's a wonderful top deck.
Alright, that's good.
Oh. God, if you have it, you have it. I think I gotta go for it, though. Painful.
Ooh. Okay.
Boop, 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 boo.
Submarine. Gyroid. Gyroid. Steamroid. Proto. Well, I sure as hell am not giving you Proto, because that reads to me as Chimera Tech is on its way. I think I'm going to give you Gyroid, actually.
Sure. That makes the most sense. I already did that. Anyway, you are absolutely correct.
Ooh, Sidra. Okay. And Overload. Okay.
I mean, if you have sack, you have sack. I'm going all in. Not to hand. But yeah, it's an 8-mat Chimera Attack.
So 6,400 attack. Wow.
I mean, if you don't have a sack, the game's over.
Pretty much.
Battle phase. Show me the sack.
This card's gonna get banned at some point, I feel like.
I'm gonna fucking ban this card, and you know it.
Well, the funniest part is just the fact that every single time you're like, if you have sack, and it's
you
like,
gotta have
yeah.
it, though! You gotta have it!
Oh yeah, I was absolutely boned otherwise, because like, okay, that's 64, so that would have been like 4K right there. Yeah, that absolutely was going to be an OTK otherwise. Also, you do have the Jumbo Drill.
That's the reason why I decided to play this deck.
Fair enough. Honestly, that's not a bad deck. It really isn't, and especially with the machine support we have nowadays.
Oh, you didn't get to see the half of this. You didn't get to see the half of this. So I boarded it out because of the deck you were playing, but I was playing DNA Surgery and Super Volley.
Oh God. See, I had considered that at some point for a couple things, but I was like, seems a little extensive.
It's gimmicky,
but
it's gimmicky, yes, but I figured that this was my best chance to play this deck because, like, one of us would have access to Fortress Dragon, and then, like, soon, in not too long, both of us are going to have access to Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, which is going to make machine decks just not playable.
Pretty much.
So I figured I had one chance to play this. So the other thing I was thinking about doing was just going in. The safe play was just to go into RDA, but RDA also loses to Zach. I just did not have a way to deal with the back row, unfortunately. So yeah, about my Crossroads of Chaos opening, I opened exactly 2 good cards.
So you hit the Black Rose. Oh shit! You hit triple? I mean, you hit double?
1 out of 10. Yeah, they're both ghosts, too.
Wow!
Like, what? This was the only good card I got out of Crossroads.
Oh my god, like, I mean, it's a hell of a card to pull, though, especially because, like I said, Black Rose doesn't stay limited for very long, and, I mean, that's 3 free board wipes right there that you can revive later at that.
But, yeah, this...
So
the other thing, if my life total wasn't so low, is I actually was going to painful to get card advantage off of Expressroid.
Expressroid?
And then try to go into a Synchro play. This buys back 2 Vehicuroids when you play it, and then you can just sync it off.
Yeah. So,
but
remember how I picked up a Turbo Warrior out of the tin?
Oh, did you pull another one?
I did. Want to know something funnier? I didn't pull the Synchron.
There are ways to rectify that in the future, but yeah, my opening was not very good. But this might be the weakest of the 7 banger sets.
Oh yeah,
that I was talking about. But Crimson Crisis and Raging Battle are going to completely warp our format because you can actually make Doom Kaiser now.
Yeah, I swear to God, like, as soon as I pulled that, I pulled that first, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because I mentioned how last time in our offline one, I ended up pulling, like, one of each of the Synchros with no way to summon them, because we didn't use the side sets, because, yeah, fun fact, because Plague Spreader Zombie was banned for so long, Konami actually released zombie-type tuner monsters with a specific effect that said that while on the field, they are treated as Plague Spreader Zombie, just so that these cards can actually still be played.
Yup.
But because they were in side sets and whatnot, we didn't have access to them. So these cards were completely dead to me, literally and figuratively.
So the reason why I wasn't playing this deck earlier is because you might recall all of the Zane Truesdale that I opened to try to get stuff for this sort of deck. I unfortunately did not crack a single copy of Power Bond.
Really? Damn,
yeah,
I'm kind of surprised.
It's a rare too, but I am looking forward to the next couple of sets. The next couple of sets are gonna just be really crazy, and I can't imagine that in the first 5Ds ban list, something from one of those 2 sets is going to get banned, and we both damn well know what it is.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go cry in the corner.
Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and discuss the deck then. Okay, so because we actually won this episode, we actually won a very particular important prize. The Zombie World Structure deck released just short of this set release. Well, I say just short, but basically it came out a little under a month before. And this deck actually was kind of huge for a lot of things, especially for zombie cards. This deck actually came with a fair amount of zombie support, and the entire gimmick of the deck was you turn everything into a zombie and make use of it. So once again, we don't get access to everything in the card, like every single thing, but everything that hasn't come out in a core set up to this point, we get one copy of. So regarding the cards that we do get a copy of, we have Red Eye Zombie Dragon, which you could summon the monster by sacrificing a zombie, which is pretty nice. And when it destroys a zombie in battle and sends it to the grave, you can special summon it. So, sounds like a really good card, and trust me, it's going to be a lot better in just a moment. We have Malevolent Mech Goku N. You can summon it without tributing, and then once per turn during the end phase, if you summoned it this way, you send it to the grave, and take damage equal to its original attack in the graveyard. However, this effect can only happen if this card is the only zombie monster on the field. What this means is, yes, its effect tries to activate every end phase. However, if there is another zombie on the field, whether yours or your opponent's, this card stays on the field for good, stays on the field for that time, which is pretty good. Paladin of the Cursed Dragon. Once per turn, you can target a level 4 or lower zombie in your opponent's grave that was destroyed in battle. Special summon it. We have Gurnia, which is okay, but we're probably not going to make use of this at any point. Scrolling down, a lot of these are monsters we already had access to, so we can't actually get them. Then we especially Zombie Master, which is disappointing. It would be so nice if we could have gotten, because they have 2 copies of this in the deck, so that would have been sweet. But here's the big one, Zombie World. Here we go. All monsters on the field and in the graveyard become zombie-type monsters, and neither player can tribute summon monsters except for zombies. This basically shuts out a lot of really powerful cards, and on top of that, it makes all of your opponent's cards zombie monsters, which means that you get to abuse the hell out of these cards' effects, like Red Eye Zombie Dragon and whatnot. So this is actually going to be huge. The only downside is this is the only copy of this card we're going to get for quite a while. So unfortunately, it's going to be really difficult to reliably have this deck. Then we get Spell Shattering Arrow, which is pretty cool, but probably not something we're going to make too much use of. Magical Stone Excavation is actually another card we get, and it's nice. It's actually pretty decent. Discard 2 cards to target a spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. It's not the best of spells, but it's not too bad on its own. Scrolling a bit more, Creature Swap, Book of Life, Call of the Mummy. All of these we already had access to, so we can't get, but Shrink is one we didn't have access to. And Rai has a copy of this, so now we both have one, which is kind of nice. And then we have a copy of Card Destruction as well, which is huge. Now granted, I don't remember 100% if this helps how this works with Dark Worlds, but I'll definitely have to check the rule links to find out. But the fact that we actually have this to help cycle our hand, if nothing else, is pretty sweet as well. And then into the traps, we have an Imperial Iron Wall, which prevents players from banishing cards, which is a pretty good effect for if we're dealing with something chaos-related or anything of that sort. Scrolling through, we have another Waboku, which is huge. And we get a Magical Arm Shield, which only was available so far in Tournament Pack 8. Now granted, this isn't the best card in the set by a long shot, but it is actually a fairly decent card because the thing about it is you actually get to blank an attack effectively, and even if you turn around and still take damage from the attack, your monster is not the one that gets blown up, it's your opponent's. So it's actually not the worst thing in the world. So we're gonna go, before we go into any, now, there are a couple other things we need to discuss, and that is we actually ended up with a few other cards. First, there's actually a Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Volume 2. It was a copy of the manga that came out around this time, and it actually came with a promotional card. And that promotional card was Thunder King Ryo, which means we get a copy of this card, and this is huge. Neither player can add a card from their deck to their hand except by drawing them. And if your opponent was summoned exactly one monster to special summon, you can actually send this card to the graveyard to negate that summon and destroy it, which is huge. And on top of that, it's a 1900 level 4 monster, light monster at that. So this is actually a really reliable and good card. And the fact that we actually have access to this is incredible. And finally, there were actually another set of tins that came out around this time. They had 3 tins. They had a red tin, a white tin, and a yellow tin. Each one came with their own specific promo. So the yellow tin, which was the one we're picking for our first prize, is going to contain a Goyo Guardian, which is a huge card. This card ended up banned for a very long time before it got an errata, which gave the errata was that it went from a generic tuner to an earth tuner requirement, which does make a huge impact for the card. However, for our purposes, it's still a good card nonetheless. And on top of that, we're still playing it pre-errata for a while anyway. So, we get a copy of this card, and it's going to be insane. And then the other one we get is Nitro Warrior, because Rai actually decided to go for a Montage Dragon, which basically fills out his playset of the card. Now, Nitro Warrior is actually one that we can't make use of right now, because we don't have a Nitro Synchron. However, it is a strong card nonetheless. You require Nitro Synchron and one or more non-tuners. It's a level 7. Once during your turn, if you activated a spell, it gains 1000 attack for the next attack it's involved in. And then if it destroys a monster in battle, you could pick a monster your opponent controls face up in defense mode, force it into attack mode, and then it attacks again, attacking that monster. This is actually a really powerful monster in that regard. Now, are we going to make too much use of this right now? God, no. But there is potential for us to abuse this later on. So, all in all, we ended up with a lot of really good cards here. And honestly, this is going to help us get right back into this and catch up on that from that losing streak. So, guys, it was a fun match, and I'm glad to see how this turned out. Next episode, we are going into Crimson Crisis, and we are going to have ourselves another Turbo Duel. So, hope you guys enjoy that. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a nice night, everyone.